Hello everyone and welcome back to the Sweeptrack Backstage channel. Today we are gonna dive deep into how classic cartoons maintain the classical music alive in the younger generations. Over the past 100 years, classical music has gone from being the main form of entertainment in Western cultural life to becoming a niche genre. Composers like Bach, Mozart, Chopin, Liszt, and Haydn, once the most celebrated names in music at the start of the 20th century, gradually lost prominence as the music industry evolved and tastes shifted. Classical music had its golden age during the 19th and the early 20th centuries, when concerts, operas, and chamber performances became increasingly accessible to broader audiences. With the invention of the gramophone and the rise of radio broadcasts in the 1920s, classical music found an even stronger foothold in daily life, reaching listeners across class and geography. But things began to change after World War II, as the music industry started targeting younger audiences. Works composed a century or two earlier began to feel outdated to the mainstream. Classical music quickly lost ground. Adding to the issue, the genre began to isolate itself, clinging to the idea that mainstream or popular music was somehow inferior. This attitude ended up alienating new artists and potential fans alike. Still, classical music didn't fade completely, and one unexpected light in keeping it alive was the golden age of cartoons, which ran from the 1930s to the 1950s. During this period, studios like Disney, Warner Bros., and MGM introduced their most iconic characters, Mickey Mouse, Bugs Bunny, and Tom and Jerry, who became some of the first major stars of animation. One of the defining traits of cartoon from this era was their creative use of classical music to help drive the storytelling. Since early cartoons were typically short and featured minimal dialogue, music played a key narrative role. These animated shorts, often shown in theaters before feature films, leaned heavily on classical music's familiarity and emotional range to connect with audiences. Mickey Mouse's The Opera House set the tone for this approach, which would later culminate in ambitious projects like Disney's Fantasia. Behind the scenes, composers like Carl Stalling at Warner Bros. And Scott Bradley at MGM helped shape a signature sound by blending classical compositions into cartoon scores. There were practical reasons for using classical music too. By the 1930s, many classical works by composers such as Beethoven, Liszt, and Chopin had entered the public domain, which meant studios could use them freely without paying licensing fees. A big advantage for animation studios working with limited budgets. Carl Stalling in particular became known for weaving these public domain pieces into dynamic and playful soundtracks, creating a rich audio backdrop without breaking the bank. Beyond the cost, classical music brought emotional depth. Many pieces were already familiar to audiences and could easily set the tone for a scene. Its expressive range made it ideal for reinforcing emotions like tension, joy, romance, or suspense. As Russell Torrance notes, early cartoons often rely on well-known melodies to help viewers interpret what was happening on screen, like using Tchaikovsky's Sleeping Beauty waltz to suggest love, or Beethoven's Fifth Symphony to heighten drama. Still, what truly made the combination of animation and classical music so powerful was its creative potential. Cartoons didn't just use classical music, they interacted with it, syncing visual gags and storytelling beats to the rhythm and emotion of the compositions. These allowed for hilarious parodies or surprisingly emotional reinterpretation, giving classical pieces a second life in an entirely new context. Fantasia, released by Walt Disney in 1940, marked a turning point in animation and raised the standard for what the medium could achieve. The film featured 8 segments, each paired with a classical composition and performed by the Philadelphia Orchestra under the direction of conductor Leopold Stokowski. Among the featured works were Bach's Toccata in Fugue in D minor, Tchaikovsky's The Nutcracker Suite, Stravinsky's The Rite of Spring, and Beethoven's Symphony No. 6, Pastoral. The film was honored with a special Academy Award that same year for its groundbreaking use of music and animation, earning recognition for pushing the boundaries of the art form. Fantasia aimed to bring classical music to life through vivid imagery, making complex compositions accessible to audiences of all ages in a bold and imaginative way. A few years later, in 1947, two cartoons sparked controversy by using the same piece of music, Liszt's Hungarian Rhapsody No. 2, in remarkably similar ways. The Cat Concerto, starring Tom and Jerry, and the Rhapsody Rabbit, featuring Bugs Bunny. Both parodied concert performances of the famously energetic piece, leading to accusations of plagiarism between studios. Ultimately, the Cat Concerto won the Oscar that year. In the Tom and Jerry short, Tom attempts to perform the technically demanding piano solo, only to be relentlessly sabotaged by Jerry. The humor builds with the increasing absurdity of the situation, as Tom struggles to keep up appearances. In Bugs Bunny versions, he is too interrupted in mid-performance by a pesky mouse. Despite the controversy, both episodes became classics, and in the process introduced Liszt music to a wider, younger audience. Another standout example of classical music in cartoons came in 1957 with What's Opera Doc, a Looney Tunes short that parodied the dramatic grandeur of Richard Wagner's operas, with Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd. The cartoon featured iconic Wagner pieces such as Ride of the Valkyries and Pilgrim's Chorus, blending exaggerated theatrical performances with clever comedy. The short won the Academy Award for Best Animated Short Film and is still celebrated to date for its ambitious mix of satire and sincerity. What made What's Opera Doc memorable was its unique balance, using grand high art music to tell a story filled with slapstick and parody. It wasn't just make fun of opera, it was paying tribute to it in a way that was both funny and surprisingly moving. The impact of Golden Age cartoons on generations of viewers who grew up watching them on television, starting in the 60s, play a major role in keeping classical music relevant. These cartoons brought famous symphonic works into homes around the world, and through their animated characters, helped shed the perception that classical music was stuffy or overly serious. If you like the video, please share and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next video. Thank you for watching.